Hello again, friends, and thank you for joining me on this beautiful sunny day. I've been getting some stick from David Jennings, aka Rarebird 101, about the drab interior that I film in, so I decided to take it outside today, pop on the shades here, and treat you to, appropriately, given it was David that prompted this move, a wild turkey rye. So, Wild Turkey has had rye for quite a while. They've been bottling rye under the Wild Turkey label since about 1954. They'd been sourcing rye whiskey for about 20 years from Baltimore Pure Rye, which is in Maryland. They were also sourcing from Penco, which you might know as the original Michter's distillery in Pennsylvania, but they started producing their own rye under the auspices of Austin Nichols, which then owned Wild Turkey around 1974. And so now we've got the suite of ryes, and this is the last rye in a tasting that I've been working on, and I'm very glad to be done with it. This feels like a tasting I've been working on literally all summer, and I've been chasing down the various bottlings, the various expressions, and trying to get a full picture. And finally, we got to what we have today. But before we talk about that, let's talk about Wild Turkey Rye. I am not a fan of Wild Turkey Rye generally, and I think that has something to do with the mash bill. So this is a mash bill of 52% rye, so it's just over the legally stipulated 50% limit for being labeled a rye whiskey, and the remainder is 36% corn and 12% barley. So this is a RINO, Ryan name only. Am I allowed to say that? That's got political connotations to some, but it is typically a lot sweeter and a lot cornier than some of the harder edged ryes that I like that have more of those steely and peppery flavors that we typically associate with rye. But setting that aside, I'm going to be keeping an open mind, and you guys are getting my literal first taste, first impressions of this Wild Turkey rare breed. So this is an interesting one. This is the newest member of the Wild Turkey family, and the story with this is that fans had requested for years and years that Wild Turkey bottle a barrel strength rye. They had previously gone up to 101 with the 101 rye, but we did not have a barrel strength rye from Wild Turkey, and that all changed. So to match the bourbon in the Rare Breed series, they put out Rare Breed Rye last year. This was one I have not been able to get my hands on yet, so I have been reliant on a sample from Will. Thank you, Will, for providing that. But this is a small taste that he was generous enough to send me. He provided me the details behind this. So this is 112.2 proof, 112.2, so 56.1% ABV. The bottle was coded LL/IE, so that implies that this was bottled in May of 2020, not long ago. And the going rate for this appears to be in the kind of the $55 to $65 range. So I'm going to be swirling and smelling and tasting and doing all the stuff we do, except I'm doing it in al fresco today. So gonna get started here. You can see the color. I love sunlight going through whiskey. It's just such a nice, like a warming thing. And this is very, you can see this kind of like yellowy, orangey. Mm. And again, yeah, straight off the bat, I'm getting that corny scent that I get in all these ryes. It's like a real, it's like if you bite into a really juicy kernel of corn or an ear of corn, like corn on the cob. Just really a lot of that on the nose. There's some more. There's scents that I typically get a lot in rye. So like one of these scents, for example, is aloe. That's one I get a lot. A green, kind of like a stocky, maybe like a eucalyptus, like a slightly medicinal or mentholated note. Getting that here as well. This has got some more exuberant citrus fruit flavors. So getting a bit of like maybe grapefruit, maybe that spicy citric, biting into a nice pink grapefruit there. Yeah, there's some oaky vanilla in there. I mean, this was definitely aged in a barrel. And yeah, beyond that, and I guess that's one of the sticking points that I've always had with these ryes is that not only are they not to my taste in terms of the profile, but I don't get as much on them as I get on the Wild Turkey bourbon. The bourbon is so full of all these flavors and aromas and all this stuff that lets you just kind of sit there and, like, particularly if you get like one of the Russell's Reserve single barrels. I mean, you can spend a long time just kind of nosing and sniffing at it, and I don't get that as much on the ryes. They tend to be more straightforward for me. An interesting note is I was reading Lou Bryson's excellent whiskey manual, the new book he just put out, and he made the point that there are different yeasts used sometimes for rye whiskey, and you can have one that accentuates more of the sweetness, or you can have one that accentuates more of the spice and that pepper. And the interesting thing that I learned from speaking with David about this was that this is the same yeast used for Wild Turkey bourbon, and in fact they have a sample of this sitting in Jimmy Russell's freezer for safekeeping, among other places. So, but this was the original yeast that was handed down to Jimmy by, I believe, Mr. Hughes, his boss, back when he started, way back when. So, in any case, yeah, consistent notes. I've given this a little time to sit in the glass here. It is it's a lot more perfumed than I think the other ryes. The other ryes I felt like I really had to reach hard to sniff, and this jumps out more from the glass than the other one. So go ahead and give it a little kiss. On my lips. Nothing presents itself immediately. There's almost like a small, like an acetone note, almost like nail polish remover. It's usually not a good sign, but so there's a sweetness of, I want to say, like a chess pie, if you've had that, sort of a buttercreamy pie. Maybe some key lime. That's a note I frequently get in ryes as well. Just taking the plunge here. Okay, so I see how that progresses through the mouth. Okay. So I've got a kind of sense of, the first sip for me is always hard to describe. I'm always just paying more attention to how does this feel, what's my sense of it, and then on subsequent go throughs I get more of the discrete flavors. But so there's that tartness on the entrance. I'm not getting a whole ton of flavor on the entrance. Maybe a little bit of that corn, but this does better than the other Wild Turkey ryes, I think, in terms of being more balanced and having some of that sweet corniness be offset by flavors that are a little bit more in keeping with the classic rye character in my experience, as well as stuff that's just more interesting to me. And that's why I go to rye for. I want a different flavor profile than bourbon. I want a different kind of drinking experience than just a corny bourbon whiskey. So. Texturally, this is very elegant, and I'm not. It's good strength. It tastes like it or it feels in the mouth like it might be a bit higher than that 56.1%. Some woodiness, some like polished wood, like a real smooth wood, and a little bit of nuttiness in the end. I'm not getting as many of those. Those eucalyptus kind of mentholated flavors that were so evident on the nose. But it's also I'm not getting the overwhelming buttery creaminess too. So yeah, a little bit of that steeliness as it this really blooms at the top of the mouth, and in fact, some of those aromatics kind of creep up the back of the throat and end up in the nose again. And so, so what do I think of this? It's the best of the examples I tried in this tasting, and if you want to read the full review, that's available on www.malt-review.com. But I think this is the most successful effort from Wild Turkey Rye. It did not have a ton of competition for my tastes. I really, I was pretty disappointed in the three examples that I had tried, which were the Russell's Reserve Rye, the 101, and the Single Barrel Rye. And I think this. If I had to drink a Wild Turkey Rye, I would drink this one. But again, at kind of $60 range, just given how much great rye there is out there and how much competition, I don't know that I would necessarily be a repeat customer of this one. So, this is a point you get to, and I kind of got here with Four Roses. Like, maybe it's just not for you. Maybe I'm not the Wild Turkey Rye guy. In which case, if you love Wild Turkey Rye and that's a flavor profile or a taste profile that appeals to you, feel free to disregard what I say about this and any other whiskey. I just want to make that clear. I'm not an expert. I'm just a guy with an opinion, and I'm sharing my thoughts with you because you seem to like to hear them. So with that in mind, feel free to go taste for yourself and make up your own mind. Don't listen to me or anybody else, whether they're a famous critic or not, just a guy like me. But on that note, I'm always very happy to have some whiskey to share with you. So I will leave it there, and once again, just end with thanks for indulging me and taking some time and joining me out in the great outdoors today. So cheers.